Konstantin Kisin is tonight's outsider. Now, one of Australia's biggest actors, best known for his starring roles in the hit show Neighbours and Hollywood blockbuster Memento, has found himself in a lefty Twitter storm after he aired his views on non-trans actors starring in trans roles. In his now-deleted tweets, Guy asked his followers, if the only people allowed to play trans characters are trans folk, then are we also suggesting the only people trans folk can play are trans characters? Surely that will limit your career as an actor. Isn't the point of an actor to be able to play anyone outside your own world? Totally fair question, if you ask me. I think the point that he's making is completely right. But predictably, the woke gatekeepers of the internet weren't having any of it, bombarding Pearce with left-wing bile that pushed the actor who actually played a drag queen, remember, in the hit film Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, into a snivelling climb down that included 3 separate apologies. Look at how long it is from the Aussie star for his, quote, insensitive comments, along with a reference to his family's privilege. Konstantin, this is so depressing, isn't it? Because here's a big actor who you would think had the balls to actually stand up for his beliefs because he actually tweeted a relatively sane but controversial in today's climate point, and within 24 hours, his climb down is astonishing.
It is an amazing world we live in, Dan, where a statement of the bleeding obvious gets you attacked like this on the internet. And of course, you know, I've been thinking about this. You know, imagine you had a friend and she said, I've got this new boyfriend and he's pretty nice, but every time I say something he doesn't agree with, he threatens to leave me and generally demands an apology and he won't give up until he gets one. It's an abusive relationship with these people. And if your livelihood depends on these people, you're always going to find that you're walking around on eggshells. So my advice to people always is, if you're in this position, is try to get out of it. You don't want your livelihood dependent on these people because you'll never be pure enough. You'll never be woke enough. They will always find some opinion that you've got that used to be absolutely acceptable until about 3 minutes ago that now makes you a phobe of some kind, and they'll keep coming after you. So I think it's a sign of the times. And, you know, the mistake he's made here is apologizing, in my opinion, because it just doesn't end well and we know this. We've seen it with previous cases.
But what I find so chilling about this, Konstantin, is that if you're an actor, basically of any level of fame, in any Western country around the world, you're looking at this case of Guy Pearce. He's effectively been cancelled now, by the way. Mark my words, he's not going to get another big gig or a big Netflix show after this, because even the tiniest controversy means that you lose your work in Hollywood. That's how craven and woke they now are. So any other actor looking at this thinks, I'm just going to keep my opinions to myself.
Well, that's why they're doing it. The whole point of cancelling people isn't just to punish the individual. It is mainly, actually, I think, to send a signal to other people. You better not get out of line. You better not say what you think. You better not ask him. The guy didn't even say anything, just asked a question. I mean, that is the level. But of course, you're right. I think the main point of what they're doing is to signal to everybody else, keep your trap shut, keep your head down, don't challenge this new orthodoxy. This is a religion that must not be questioned, then.
Yeah, no, you're so right. Even just prompting a debate, asking a question in 2023 will get you cancelled in Hollywood. It's so shocking. And can we actually just tackle the issue itself, Konstantin? Because this is one that I'm so passionate about. I cannot believe that we're now saying to actors, you can no longer act as any character unless they have all of your characteristics, your background, your skin colour, your hair colour, your sexuality. Is that what they're saying? Or, Konstantin, are they actually saying, if you're white and straight, you can only play white and straight? If you're a minority, you know, if you're trans, you can play a non-trans character. If you're black, you can play a white character. It feels like we're developing 2 different sets of rules in society.
Well, who knows, Dan, because the rules change every day, and what was fine yesterday is no longer okay today. But I think the main thing that we should say here is, you know, people like you and people like me get accused of, you know, not being liberal. I actually thought the whole point of being liberal is that people are free to do different things and do whatever they believe and try different options and so on. And to me, the reason I oppose all of this is, to me, it's the most illiberal thing in the world, where there is a small minority of people who get to tell everyone else how they ought to to behave, what movies they ought to act in and not act in, what opinions they're supposed to have, and as in this case, what questions they're allowed to ask in public. This is an extraordinarily illiberal ideology, and that's why I think some of us call it a religion or a cult, because it seeks to impose its values on everybody else. The thing I think a lot of people find themselves in trouble with, if you're not paying attention to the stuff on a daily basis, you don't know what the rules are because they change every day.
Yeah. And you know what? The trans community is doing itself a disservice here, because if you want to bring attention, positive attention to your community, then you want big Hollywood names taking on trans roles. It did so much for the gay community in the 90s when big straight actors like Tom Hanks started being prepared to play gay characters. It made it feel more mainstream, more acceptable. So actually, in the end, the woke eat themselves, and they do themselves a huge disservice.
Dan, one thing we should say before we move on is I don't think it's fair to blame this on the trans community. I think it's a small minority of activists who are doing this. I'm sure you agree. But I think that's an important point to make.
But I absolutely agree with that. But I think these wokesters who do this are actually doing the trans community a huge disservice.
That's right. They're hurting trans people by advocating all this nonsense that I don't think most trans people subscribe to. And as you well know, there are plenty of trans people who speak out very clearly against this sort of rubbish. And I hope they continue so that their community doesn't actually get damaged by all this idiocy.